Alrighty, guys, here we go. Back at it again with a Slaughterhouse Sports special this morning. And it is a hire. I know that I use the words big time hire, but it's an important hire for the sport of college football. And it's Collin Klein. Collin Klein, the Kansas State legend, now going to be the offensive coordinator for Mike Elko at Texas A&M. A much-anticipated hire with Mike Elko, as he is a defensive head coach. And Mike Elko is, like I said, he specializes on the defensive side of the football, and A&M has a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball. You have Evan Stewart, you have Connor Weigman at quarterback. At A&M, you're going to have the money and you're going to have the resources to recruit top-level offensive talented players. So I've thought about this hire a lot, and I love every part of the hire. I've been a big fan of Collin Klein now for the last several years. He was a great football player. That helps with recruits. He was a Heisman finalist. I actually believe the year Manziel won it as a freshman, Collin Klein was a finalist. He took Kansas State as a player to new heights under Bill Snyder, a tremendous dual-threat quarterback, a very tough quarterback. All right, so Collin Klein, he's young, and he's a really good offensive coordinator. When he stepped in, his first year, Kansas State won the Big 12 championship. All right. And then and the first year he stepped in, Adrian Martinez was their quarterback for the first part of the season. They also had Deuce Vaughn. He got the most out of Deuce Vaughn, a 5'8" running back. He also got the most out of Will Howard. Will Howard was considered a limited backup quarterback. Adrian Martinez got injured. Will Howard came in there, and Will Howard and this offense took off. He gave Chris Kleiman in Kansas State a modernized approach to the game of football in a much-needed way, okay? He modernized Kansas State and Chris Kleiman. He made Chris Kleiman even a better coach. Chris Kleiman would be fine as a coach. He made Chris Kleiman into an elite coach, all right? So also, Chris Kleiman and Mike Elko are cut from the same cloth. They're similar. They're defensive coaches, and they want the game to be played under control. They want to use time of possession very, very well. And that's exactly, Collin Klein can work in that structure. He is not your air raid, let's go light up the scoreboard, let's go hit explosive plays all the time type of offensive coordinator. He's going to be a guy that's going to run the football and really put an emphasis on being physical. DJ Givens had over 1,000 yards this year as a running back at Kansas State. Will Howard was an efficient passer, but it wasn't like Will Howard was out there throwing for 280 every single game. There were some games where Will Howard only threw the ball like 17 or 20 times, but was like 15 for 20 throwing the football. All right? So, and also, Collin Klein is versatile, meaning that he had Adrian Martinez as a quarterback. He's had Avery Johnson as a quarterback. He's had a lot of quarterbacks even before Will Howard. He was at Kansas State as a coach from 2016 all the way up until 2023. It took a lot for him to leave Manhattan, Kansas. He had opportunities possibly with Notre Dame, with Colorado. He is a bright mind, and he's only 34 years old, and he's worked with a multitude of quarterbacks, whether it be a running quarterback or whether it be a throwing quarterback. But the consistency is in the run game. All right. And the consistency is that he'll take some shots and he'll play under control football from an offensive coordinator perspective. I really like the fit at A&M. All right. I really do. Now, the only downsides to a Collin Klein offense is maybe the level of explosive plays through the passing game. Maybe that could be like a little bit of a concern for some people. Or also, Collin Klein, now it is interesting, he's worked with like 3-star, kind of teams where he hasn't worked with that elite bona fide Evan Stewart type, first round talent as a wide receiver. Will he feed him the football? But that could also be used as a positive because this is a guy, just like the coordinator at Kansas, this is a guy that's maximized what he's had. He's maximized 3-star talent in Manhattan. What has he done with less? All right. And that's not an offense to the Kansas State players. The Texas A&M wide receiver skill position players are better players than the players that he had in Manhattan, Kansas. All right. So this is an awesome move by A&M. I was surprised. I thought that Mike Elko was going to go with somebody he knew very well, but it just shows you this is very good CEO skill for Mike Elko. He doesn't really have a prior relationship with Collin Klein, but he realized that Kansas State's offense, they were putting up 37 points a game, and that is not the typical Kansas State of Bill Snyder of old. The Bill Snyder Kansas State teams are like a Wisconsin, ground and pound, score games in the 15s and the 20-point ranges, and win with defense, kind of like Iowa football. But with Collin Klein, he was able to modernize, or he was able to get this offense really humming at a level that Kansas State really hasn't seen in a while, and that's why Kansas State was a threat in the Big 12 and from a national perspective. They were one possession away from beating Texas. I know Texas had a backup quarterback. So again, I look to Collin Klein as maybe a top 5, top 10 coordinator. And let's just look at the offensive coordinators that are young offensive coordinators. You have Garrett Riley, who's a really good offensive coordinator who's young. Sean Lewis was a guy that was young at Colorado, now is a head coach. Jeff Lebby, young in his 30s, offensive coordinator. Okay, usually these guys are panning out. How about Tommy Rees? People thought that Tommy Rees was too young, not ready to take the job at Alabama. He's transformed that offense with Jalen Milroe and made it into a power. So I like going young sometimes for an offensive coordinator. And I like going from a place like Kansas State where what coach is maximizing the talent around them, what coach is getting the most out of them. And Chris Klieman, I think he might have an offensive background, but again, he let go of his longtime offensive coordinator to promote Collin Klein. That says a lot about Collin. And if you've listened to the show for a while, again, I've been a proponent of Collin Klein. So again, a lot of these hires I'm liking, but Cottle Necky from Kansas and Collin Klein are going to be two of the most intriguing, OC hires. But I got to say I like it. Now, what will be a success for A&M? It's a high bar at A&M, all right? But we're going to see how consistent this offense can be with Collin Klein, how he can recruit. But this is a move for Collin where at Kansas State, yes, that's comfortable. That's home for Collin Klein and his family. 35 years old and has spent a majority of his life in the Midwest, whether it be outside of Denver growing up in Colorado, whether it be at Kansas State, whether it be at Northern Iowa for a couple of years in Cedar Falls, okay? So now he's going to SEC, big boy Texas football, intense recruiting, and he's getting a crash course now. And he's talented enough that he's ready to make this leap with him and his family, and he's going to find out, how much he loves, the intensity of SEC football. All right. And again, this is a move for him to potentially maybe become a head coach in the future. So again, Collin Klein, really good guy by all accounts, wishing him luck. And again, for these reasons, I love the decision. I really do. I think it's a very good move by Mike Elko.